Hello, my name is Arlen McFarlane and I'm the Curious Gardener, and today we're talking bees with Sue Moody. Sue Moody, how long have you been keeping bees?
I've been keeping bees since the early 90s. They're fascinating creatures. It's really fun to keep them here in the north and have them near your home where you can watch them and see their progress and watch them just coming and going through their hives every day.
How many hives would a person get if they were going to keep bees?
Well, it's up to you. I've generally kept 4. That seems to be a good amount to be able to manage between the hives. Sometimes you need to move honey from one hive to the other hive in order to even them out. And so 4 seems to be a good manageable number for just personal use and for bartering and that sort of thing. When you start off in the spring, you keep the hive fairly condensed because they want to keep together and be warm. And then later on, as they start to grow and bring in more honey, you start adding supers on. The box is called a super.
A super.
So you add more supers onto the top with more frames inside, so it gives them more room to grow. This is a frame that will either end up being a honey frame where they put only honey, or a brood frame where they only lay eggs. This is where they're starting to build here, just starting to build up the cells. Then by having it on this frame, it keeps the honey and brood even so that it's easier to harvest at the end of the season.
Wax gets built on top of the wax frame.
That's right.
And do you buy this in the size and then just plunk it in, or do you cut it?
Yeah. No, you buy the sheets in the size. Okay. And the frames come in pieces and you put them together and wire it up.
And we'll get to pull one of these out of the beehive once I get suited up?
That's right. Queen is the ruler of the hive. She organizes how everybody works, and everybody works around her in order to ensure that new brood, new eggs and new larvae are being laid by her and looked after by the worker bees. There's about 8,000 bees in a package, and then as the season goes on, they exponentially increase because the more workers, the more brood, the more laying, and by the end there can be 100,000 bees. You will get to see what the honey looks like inside the hive, and you'll be able to see bits of pollen being packed in, because then the bees use that to mix it with honey to make what they call bee bread, which is the food that the honeybees eat.
Here we go. Holy moly!
So you say it's heavy?
It's quite heavy.
There are a lot of challenges with keeping bees. For one thing, here we live so far from a source of healthy bees. They have to be shipped in from New Zealand. So by the time they get here, they're stressed, and then it's just the challenge of trying to make sure they make it through the winter. But a lot of people have a lot of trouble with that because winters are so long.
How do you keep bees warm over the winter?
Well, one of the things that's really important with bees is to give them good ventilation in the wintertime so that ice doesn't build up in the hives. And then you can either put insulation around them and leave them in the field where they were all summer. Or what I prefer to do is put them into a root cellar so that they get nice ventilation around, but it's dark and the temperature is more consistent.
Do they go into hibernation?
Yeah, they go into a tight ball, and depending on how cold the temperature is in the hive, they go into a tighter ball around the queen or a more loose ball to keep the heat regulated.
So does the taste of honey depend what they're feeding on?
Yes, it does. The taste of honey does depend on what they're feeding on. Early in the spring, if you taste it, it tastes really flowery. Fireweed is the main flow of honey, and it's quite a delicate honey, a very light colored honey.
Beauty. I can't eat it until I take my hat off.
And this is early season honey, so it's the more perfumey, flowery taste.
It is perfumey. You can smell it.
So here's what the honey looks like when it's done. This is fireweed honey, and you can see little bits of wax on the top because it's from the hive.
That's pretty. It's real pretty. How does honey come about from everything that just happened?
Well, they go and gather nectar, and so they have it in their honey stomach, and then they vomit it into the cells, and then they fan it down so that it concentrates.
Oh, okay, it's as simple as that. And honey can never go bad. I've read that. Honey will never go bad. Is that true?
Well, if they've had a full season on it and capped it down, then and it's concentrated enough, it won't go bad. If it gets watered down or if it's got condensation in it, then it can go bad. We make mead at the end of the season when we harvest the honey. You use a heat gun to take the caps off, and then you put it in a centrifuge, crank it down. So all those cappings we put into water and it ferments.
Oh,
This is not a Yukon Brewing product. We just use the jar.
this is a homemade product? Okay. Mead. Wow. Is this alcoholic?
A little bit.
It's really good. We should just all lay around and have a mead party on the deck in the sun with the bees.